working on a small quilt, and you can see this quilt is only 5 rows long, and I've quilted 2 rows, but I want to show you how I start to measure to make sure that when I get to the end of the quilt, I should not have a very large adjustment to make. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the repeat patterns mode or the edge-to-edge mode. This same method should work in both cases. I have already rolled the quilt. I have relocated. The needle is on the left side up at the top of the next row to be quilted. So what I did here was measured this from this point where the needle is to the end of the quilt. And I have 44¼ inches of quilt left. When I quilt this next row, I will roll the quilt, relocate everything, and I will repeat this process. So now I'm going to quilt this row, and I'll be back with this recording to show you how I check how much is left with just these 2 rows. And if I need to make an adjustment, I will make an adjustment. And when I get to the end of the quilt, this last row, I should have very small amount of adjustment to make. I should tell you that I measured this amount of quilt left, and it was about 44¼ inches, but as you can see, only show 33.32. So I'm going to go ahead and increase that up to about 44, and maybe I'll just leave it at 44.07. I'm not going to increase it any more at this time. And then when I quilt this next row, we'll see where we are in relation to the amount of quilt left to quilt and the amount of pattern left to quilt. Okay, I've finished that row, roll the quilt, and I have moved the pattern into position, relocated it. I measured from the top edge of this, and I use the needle here to tell me where the top edge of that pattern is. See, I have the crosshair, horizontal crosshair right across where the top edge of the next row is. And I measured that, and it's about 29½ inches. So when I select these 2 rows, I get 29.48, and I'm not going to make an adjustment. So I should have a very small adjustment when I do this last row. So we will quilt this next row and then check and see where we are. Everything is adjusted for this last row. The quilt has been rolled, it has been relocated, a new boundary drawn, and now you can see just how close my measurement was for continuing to quilt and roll and adjust the pattern before I got to the bottom of the quilt. And if you will do this, you will only have a very small adjustment to make when you get to the bottom of the quilt. I'll just move this over a tiny bit and check the other side. Move it out. I will take and adjust my edge here. I'm going to get the F7, the nodes. I need to pull this out so that it is right at the edge of the quilt. Get this last node. Just going to move it out there. Check the other side. And also I'm going to move this out into the edge of the quilt. That's really close where I want it. That's okay. And what I think I'm going to do here is take this repeat and get my handles. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. Move this one up a little bit. Now I know I'm going to be disconnected here, and that's not a problem. I'm going to go in, get my nodes, and I think I'm going to divide this right at that node. Select this, change my handles, get an end, turn on end anchor. There you go, right there. Go over to the other one and do the same thing. Get this, get my nodes, divide it right there, select it, get the end anchors, okay, bring it down there. Now you'll never know that I did that. I'll press escape and I'll be ready to quilt this. I'm going to save my project, and that's basically all there is to it. You should have very, very small adjustment to make when you get to the bottom of the quilt. I've been doing this method for a long time, and the only time I ever have a problem is when I forget to do my adjustments as I go down the quilt.